Summer Session number 11. For our first mindful minute, we'll just tune into this present moment and take a few calming breaths. You can simply take notice of where the breath is right now and lessen any tension around it to make it more calm. Extend that to release any tension in your posture, settling into a nice, stable, balanced, but soft and malleable position. Keep breathing as you feel your body. Notice any sounds or sights that are happening right now. Feeling the paper underneath your fingers, the seat underneath your bottom. And we'll do one final stretch here before we dive into the art part. So for this hyena, I wanted to match some of the browns and pinks in this little door that I have for my crafting part. And I think I'll start with those little designs on the side, as I normally do. I don't know if those pinks match quite, so I think I'll try something like that. And these shapes are just very simple sort of dots and wavy S-like curves that sort of interlace or overlay each other a little bit. So just kind of a dot with an S and then a little leaf shape at the end. And this is, of course, a good way to just warm up the fingers and the wrist a little bit before we dive into any more artistic stuffs. So now that I've got that down, I just want to use the same color to fill in this little nose. So I want this hyena to have a little bit of a softening with the pink. But of course, if you want to do a blue or purple hyena, you are more than welcome to. I'll start filling in this outline. If you're following along without the sort of design at home, you can first do some basic shapes like a circle where the head would be, and then a larger sort of oval where the body would be, and some simple sketchy lines for the legs and the tail, and then just start drawing over top of that. Designs like these can hide a lot of errors with the extra design, and they're not meant to be perfectly anatomically correct, so you don't have to worry about making a very realistic looking hyena here, since it's going to have all sorts of little triangles and circles inside of it. For a fun exercise, you can also try doing this outside line without the guide, and that will probably not end up perfect, but it is a good exercise for your hand-eye coordination. We did all kinds of stuff like that when I was in animation to help build different drawing skills. Another one is to try drawing the entire outline with only one line. So you would not just do the outer outline, you would also kind of traverse across it at different points. And that can be another fun way of practicing looking at something with a more artistic eye, because you really do want to follow those underlying shapes that make up this creature. Now I think I'll do the eyes in black so they stand out a little bit. With designs like this, I don't mind putting in details that normally I would save to the end, just a little bit earlier. I do want some good, bold pink areas in here for my little hyena. Little pink paws, I think, will sort of soften this usually kind of maligned animal people think of as being sort of a mean or mangy dog. For the brown, I think I'm going to take a look over at my little scratchy palette that I have at the end of my ArtyZen workbook. I don't think it really matches any of the pen browns I have, but I think it might match some of the pencils that I have on hand. So I'm going to use one of those just in some of these behind areas. This is more of a peach, but it'll make a good sort of middle color between the pink and the brown that I want to use. Now I just want to lay in a really nice big swash of brown. I don't know how many details I'll get to in our short little 10 minutes here together. So I want to have some big stuff, nice and well defined, so that if I come back to it, I know where I'm kind of putting down certain colors already. Doing this just helps by getting some of the thinking done during this part. I think I might have gone into the eyes a little bit there with my brown. Oh well. It's a good thing this is in my journal. Maybe I'll put some blue into those eyes now, though, so that they don't get any other colors messing them up. Now, I want a thinner line for some of these interior lines, but I don't know how well this pink is going to show up. So I'll just test it out in a few areas for now. I think what I might actually do is pull one of my refills. I think somewhere in here I have a brown, yeah, there it is. And I'm just going to use this little tube without putting it into the pen, just to get some of these big lines in. Because I like the way that ends up looking when some of these get filled in a bit more. And plus it'll define the legs for this guy a little bit. But I'll also follow some of these squiggles. I always thought hyenas were kind of cute when I was a kid, especially with some of the spots and things. So when I saw The Lion King and they were the villains, I kind of felt a little bit dismayed that people think of them as such bad characters. But anyway, I can still enjoy them as a sort of exotic doggo. But I think I'm coming to the end of my little sand timer, so I'll just pick a couple little things to fill in here. And I'm pretty happy with that. Now for our next mindful minute, we'll just tune back into that breath, see where it's gotten to in the last little art part, and see if the posture has slouched down a bit over our work. Maybe straighten that back out to something more upright, but still nice and soft. Becoming aware of the feelings, smells, sights, sounds, and anything else happening right now in the present moment. Becoming aware of the feeling of paper under your hands. And maybe taking one final little stretch before we dive into the writing part. So the prompt today is, what would you put in a jar to keep a little summer on your desk all year long? And as I usually like to do, I'm going to use a different color on summer just to make it stand out a little more. I think jar should also stand out a little bit from the other words. I don't know if this pen is still fully full or operational here, so I'll give it a little test. If I have to switch it out, then I'll have to switch it out. Yep, I think that's what we're gonna have to do. That is one of my favorite sort of teal, aqua, between green and blue colors, so I definitely end up using it quite a bit. But I have this nice sort of silvery green that I think will go with the light greens in my door and some of the tapes that I want to use. And while I write over this, I'll let my mind wander over the question. It's kind of a silly question. What would you put in a jar to keep summer on your desk all year long? Could always try to answer it more realistically or more fantastically. If I'm being totally fantastical, it would be great to have an entire beach reef in there. Or maybe an entire summer music festival in miniature. Miniature little dancers cavorting about. Or perhaps the entirety of a summer road trip with a little car traveling around, like one of those train sets, but all captured into a little bottle. But those are all very fantastical ideas that, though entertaining, I don't know if I'm going to put those down for my answer to this prompt today. I think I may wander back to something a bit more realistic. And to do that, I can take a look at my actual desk, because I do pull a lot of weird little curios and stuff out with the plants and other things I keep around my desk to brighten up my workspace. One of the things that I keep there are mason jars with those sort of fairy string lights that are on wires sort of balled into them. And the effect does kind of look like a bunch of fireflies have been captured into a jar. There's even a couple jars where I put some sand from my friend's cottage and some bones that we found on the beach. So I actually do have a couple little jars that have captured summer on my desk. Those things do definitely brighten up the space, literally and figuratively, because sometimes I do end up working later at night, especially balancing a job and doing videos like this and writing articles and trying to make my next set of these journals. So that can make for some long work days. And it definitely does help to have some fun stuff to look at when I gaze off to the side. Give my eyes a break from the computer screens. And now that I have that nice, realistic thing in there, I might write in one of my fantastical ideas of encapsulating something that would be hard to. I had a lovely night at a music festival, dancing with some lovely people, and I wish I had something from that I could keep on my desk all year long and look back at. Like maybe a whole little festival in miniature with little people dancing around all through a starry, starry night. Maybe even going into a lovely sunrise. I think I'll do a little bit more coloring on this hyena while I let my mind wander over the question again. I'd like to get a third thing in there, just because, I don't know, I like putting in at least 3 things when I answer these prompts. 3 feels like you've given something a good amount of thought and effort for whatever reason, doesn't it? So maybe I'll just wander back to my fantasy plane again. But with a little bit more of a realistic spin. It would be nice if I could keep some of the beautiful flowers from my garden in a jar on my desk all year long. I don't think they'd grow in a jar very happily. Although I do have a jar full of plant called the Mother of Thousands, and those little monsters are growing very well in a jar. They're not flowers. They look kind of like a alligator with tiny babies clinging to its teeth. It's a very neat looking plant, but I honestly think it's an alien sometimes. I've put it into a jar and forgotten about it, and it kept growing for like a year with no water, no fresh air, no dirt, just a glass jar. So it may not be of this world. And now that I've played around with some fantastic and realistic ideas, I think I'll just go in and fill a few more of these little areas on my hyena, just to give it a bit more of that zentangly, almost tattooed look. And find a natural place now that I'm out of sand to finish off. I'm happy with that. So for our last mindful minute, we'll tune back into the breath, releasing any tension around that so it can become nice and calm and steady. Tune into the feelings in your body, whether your shoulders have gone off kilter towards your dominant hand while you were writing maybe, and just straighten back into something stable and balanced, but also soft and malleable. And become aware of anything else you sense in this present moment. Any sights or sounds, feelings, smells or tastes. Anything happening right now. Maybe give some wiggles to the fingers and a last stretch before we dive in to our crafting portion. I'll set my timer, which I likely won't follow, and take a look at my little papers here that I've arranged as sort of the basis. I'm doing a 2-page spread today because I feel like it. And because summer is drawing to a close, and I still have some empty pages in my summer journal. And I'm excited to start my fall journal too. So I might be doing a few of these big 2-page spreads for my last few entries. Why not? So I'm just taping this down with some clear tape because I go into the back here and put down some decorative tape. Because of course, this door is going to be a door. I mean, the door has to be a door, right? And by that, I mean a working door with little hinges so that I can open it up like an extra page. Because even though I have some extra pages to fill in, I seem to like to still create more pages for myself. And why not? It just adds some extra interest and interactivity to this journal. And I've been very much enjoying adding little functions like that. I usually also do some frames around my writing, to both section it off, but also connect it to the rest of the piece. It's funny how it can do both those things simultaneously. And I've made some pockets too, but they're not my favorite because they do close off the space. Sort of like taping things in on all sides. Closes off the space behind it. But that might be a feature, not a bug for you. If you wanted to do some writing and then hide it for any possible prying eyes, you could always tape it in behind another piece of paper, and no one would be the wiser. I won't tell. The tapes I'm using are called Record of Backyard, so since they're very summery and since this is kind of connected to the writing prompt of encapsulating part of summer, I wanted to try using all of these tapes. So I might use them over here on my door, and I might also try and make them part of the writing frame and tie that in with the art too a little bit. There might end up being a lot of tape in this session. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely will be using this butterfly as a bit of a door handle, as I've been very much enjoying doing with my stickers lately, by just lifting off the back a little bit like this and then sliding it over to where I want it to be. And then sticking that down with the backing still on the other part of the sticker so that I can use it to open my door. It also adds a bit of weight with that cardboard backing, so it kind of keeps the paper down. And it creates a bit more depth too, since it will kind of lift off or sit a little bit higher off the page as well. So I think I'm going to hide a couple butterflies back here too, just for fun. And I'm going to just use some clear tape to tape down the back of my butterfly sticker, just so that doesn't come off or fold itself into any weird positions at any point. My tape kind of came off. These tapes are very pretty, but they are lacking in the stickiness department for sure. So I usually tend to overlap them with one of my opaque tapes, but since that would be a lot of tape, I've been just using some clear tape where I need to, and that'll have to be what I do today. Now, this is just a silly thing, but I just want to stick a little flower in this hyena's mouth. I don't know why. I really like doing this with some of the coloring animals that I have in here. I've stuck a leaf onto a llama's head, or I like sticking flowers in carnivores' mouths. It just, I don't know, there's something about juxtaposing a pretty little flower into a hyena's mouth that I just really like. It just tickles my fancy. And this is the place to tickle fancies and be frivolous and fun and silly. That's the whole fun of a journal. Everything here is really just for your own fanciful interests and likes and whims. A journal should always be a place where you can be as whimsical as you want to. So, if there's anything that you ever think, oh, maybe I want to do this, but that's silly, immediately do the thing, especially if it's silly, in your journal, because this is the place for it. I always feel too that there's something that is so satisfying about doing this kind of journal art for my inner child. Because as a kid, obviously, I liked coloring things. And I loved stickers like almost every kid on earth. And having these stickers and coloring books as an adult just really hits that inner child that's still inside of me in such a wonderful way, on that level of, just pure joy at being able to color in animals and stick in butterflies, all this stuff. But because they're also kind of fancy, it also makes me feel like a fancy adult while I'm doing it. Wait, I am an adult. But you know what I mean. It's both a childlike activity and an adult activity. It has a veneer of being an adult over it. And yes, that long pause was because the word I was thinking of was adultery, and obviously that did not fit what I was trying to say here. Veneer of maturity? I don't know if maturity is the word I'm looking for either, though. Legitimacy, maybe? No, that doesn't quite fit either. Either way, this is, of course, a very legitimate, mature, creative endeavor for an adult to undertake that somehow is still fanciful and whimsical and silly and satisfying to those inner children we all still hold inside ourselves. And why not? I spend so much of my day being an adult and doing my job, which can be stressful, taking care of my home, seeing family and friends, driving around, buying groceries, other adult things, hearing the news or other things that, can be a bit pessimistic or worrisome about the future. And as a nice salve to all of that, I come here and play with tape. Why not? And sometimes my playing with tape goes over the 10 minutes that I'm trying to stick to. Pun intended there. Get it? Stick. So I'm going to speed up this end just for the sake of keeping this whole video under 40 minutes as I try to do. But if you're taking your time sticking things in or coloring stuff, I won't tell. This is obviously as long as you want to make it, and as fanciful as you want to make it. But I had this whole idea about adding this little jar sticker and then using tapes to sort of create frames and borders around it to tie it in with the prompt, but also separate it a little bit from it too. So that's what I'm doing here. And I also had a few other stickers that I wanted to stick in for just the plain purposes of decoration. There's always this funny play that comes up when I'm sticking in this much tape, where I definitely want to balance the amount of white still on the page with all these colors I'm tacking in. So, I think that's pretty good for the tapes. I'll just stick down some of the edges that want to lift off. I'll stick in my last few little stickers here, just some flowers. in that moon. And there we go. I'm happy with that. I hope you created something equally whimsical and fun and fanciful that both makes your inner child jump for joy and also the adult you feel a little bit less stressed out today, because we can all use that. The music, as always, was gotten from the lovely Lo-Fi Girl and is on the playlist Lo-Fi's to Live-Fi's. Thank you so much for watching.